Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. What we're diving into today, it's not some dusty old historical document. Nope. This is raw. It's urgent. It's a deeply, deeply personal letter. You could almost call it a crisis communication, from a leader whose entire reputation is just hanging by a thread.
So, right from the get go, the stage is set for a major conflict. And let me tell you, this is not some calm philosophical essay. This is a leader's desperate, all out attempt to defend his integrity, to rebuild trust, and to somehow mend this just shattered relationship with a community he clearly loves. And boom, right away, the author, Paul, he just lays it all out there. He shows us just how vulnerable he is. He's not writing this from some high and mighty position of authority, not at all. He's writing this from a place of pure anguish. He even says with tears. I mean, the emotional stakes here, they could not be higher. So you're probably wondering, what on earth caused this huge crisis? Well, you might be surprised. It all started with something pretty simple, really, a change in travel plans. See, Paul had promised he'd visit the church in Corinth, but, stuff happens and his plans had to change. Well, this led some people there to accuse him of being unreliable, of being fickle, and that little accusation just snowballed into this massive, full-scale attack on his character, his leadership, everything. So this letter, this is his passionate response.
And really, this taps into such a universal problem, doesn't it? One that feels so incredibly modern. I mean, think about it. When your intentions are questioned and your reputation is on the line, how do you defend yourself without just sounding, well, defensive? How do you actually win back the trust and the hearts of the people you care about? It's tough. Okay, so how does Paul even begin to tackle this? Well, he doesn't beat around the bush. He goes right for the main accusation head on. This idea that he's wishy-washy, that his promises are, yay one minute and nay the next.
Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Check out how he pivots. He doesn't just say, hey guys, trust me, I'm a reliable dude. No. Instead, he grounds his own reliability in something way bigger, in a divine consistency. He basically argues that his message, which is rooted in Christ, is the ultimate the ultimate yes. So if that's true, then how could his ministry be fundamentally unreliable? It's a brilliant move.
From there, he builds his main counterargument, and it's a big one. He says, look, my authority doesn't come from some rigid set of rules, what he calls the letter, like something carved in stone. No, he says it comes from something alive, something dynamic and transformative. He calls it the Spirit. And right there, you get this incredibly powerful contrast. He's basically telling the Corinthians, hey, if you build a ministry on just a bunch of rigid external rules, that's a dead end. It kills things. But a ministry that's actually empowered by this living Spirit, that's what brings real life and freedom. And this, he's arguing, this is his real credential. Okay, so this next part, this leads us right to the emotional heart of his whole argument. And it's built around one of the most powerful metaphors in the entire letter. The big question he has to answer is how can he prove that his ministry is really from God and not just something he cooked up himself? And his answer is this incredible metaphor. He says, I want you to think of me and my friends as just ordinary, fragile clay jars, earthen vessels. The container itself is weak, it's cheap, it's not impressive at all. And that, he says, is the entire point. Because when you see any kind of power or light shining from that jar, you know for a fact that it can't be coming from the jar itself. It has to be coming from God. And then he just lays out his proof with his amazing, rapid-fire list of paradoxes. It's like for every single moment of human weakness, he's troubled, he's perplexed, he's persecuted, he's knocked down, some kind of divine strength shows up. He's not totally crushed. He doesn't fall into despair. He's not left all alone. It's like his weakness becomes the very stage where God's power gets the spotlight. I mean, this is a total 180 from how the world usually thinks about power and credibility, right? Paul's main evidence that he's the real deal isn't his strength or his amazing speeches or his list of successes. Nope, it's his suffering. It's the fact that he survived it all through a power that is so clearly not his own. So you gotta picture this. His opponents in Corinth, they're probably bragging about how great they are at public speaking, who they know, their impressive resumes, all that stuff. So to counter them, Paul says, okay, fine, I'm going to have to do something that feels a little foolish. I'm going to boast too, but I'm going to boast about the exact opposite things. And wow, what a resume it turns out to be. This is no list of achievements, let me tell you. It's just this overwhelming catalog of pain and hardship and nonstop pressure,
We're talking shipwrecks, beatings, constant danger. And then, as if that's not enough, he talks about the daily emotional weight of just caring for all these different communities. This, he argues, this is the true sign of his commitment. But then he gets even more personal. He reveals that on top of all this crazy external suffering, he was also given some kind of chronic, mysterious problem. He calls it a thorn in the flesh, and he says its purpose was to keep him from getting too proud, to keep him humble. Just try to imagine that for a second. After everything else he's been through, he has this constant, nagging pain that he just can't get rid of. He says he begged God not once, not twice, but 3 times to take it away. So, what do you think God's answer was? This is the answer he gets, and honestly, it's the thematic climax of the entire letter. The weakness? It isn't a problem that needs to be fixed. It's the very place where divine strength is made perfect, where it's made complete. The grace he's been given is enough. And for Paul, that realization changes absolutely everything. All right, so now that he's basically reestablished his authority on this totally radical new foundation, Paul makes a big pivot. He moves from defending himself to talking about his ultimate purpose, because he wants to make it clear that this whole letter, it's not just about him proving that he's right, it's about restoring a broken relationship. He calls his mission a ministry of reconciliation. So what does that mean? It means he doesn't see himself as a prosecutor or a judge. He's an ambassador. And what does an ambassador do? They represent someone else. In this case, he's representing God's desire for peace, and his job is to plead with people to get back into a right relationship. And this is where he makes his most direct, heartfelt appeal. He's essentially saying, look, we are speaking for Christ himself when we beg you, be reconciled to God. It's not a command. It's this urgent, loving plea for them to come back. And here's the brilliant part. This is where he brings it all full circle, right back to the original crisis. He's not saying it outright, but he's strongly implying that the Corinthians need to apply this exact same principle to their broken relationship with him. You know, if God's main business is reconciliation, then shouldn't that be their business too? So how does he wrap it all up? Not with anger, not with a final scolding. He ends with this really beautiful, hopeful set of instructions for the whole community. He's laying out the path forward. Comfort, unity, peace. You see, in the end, he's not just trying to defend himself. He's trying to show them the way back to being a healthy, whole community again. And that really leaves us with a final pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? This whole letter just completely flicks our normal ideas about power upside down. It really challenges us to ask ourselves, in our own lives, living in a culture that is just obsessed with success and looking strong and perfect, what would it actually look like to acknowledge our weaknesses? Not as failures to be ashamed of, but as the very places where real, true strength might actually be found.